Darren Gadders, an author behind Professor Gadders Explains YouTube channel. Good afternoon, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, always. Well, craving explanation. Please explain. It seems to me that America is in a state of deep shock caused by, how do you put it mildly, fast and furious Trump's activity. Let's put it that way. Am I right?
You're right. So I think the intention is to do things as fast as possible, to break things, to have a shock and awe campaign, but not militarily, but politically.
Why? I mean, why? And then, so the end of tenure is not an aim, and it's not. But he's not going there. What's the plan? Is there any plan? Because I tell you what I'm asking. When I was in Munich security conference, I was talking to my colleagues, the New York Post, the Washington Post, the Time Mag, and they all say one thing: it's like an impulse and nothing else. There is no general plan. Is that so?
I think there's a direction, but no plan.
Right.
There's a difference between those two things. The direction is I'm standing by that I'm a deal. This is Trump standing by that I'm a deal maker. I'm going to make this deal. I don't know that there's any plan to get there. Little bits and pieces have leaked out saying, well, I don't have a plan yet. I mean, from aides in his administration, we don't have a plan yet. But the idea is to bring people to the table, make a deal, and I guess there's that as a motivating North Star, but I don't know that they have anything together about, what the end result may be. Right. People certainly are speculating, but that's about it.
So we the people, it looks like me the people now. How likely is it that America is to protest in a way that may cause Trump's impeachment? I'm just asking. Is that possible even?
I think it's highly unlikely for multiple reasons. So part of the problem is that the Republican Party is more MAGA than it is conservative. And when I say that, I mean more populist than conservative. And the populist impulse is to break things, punch the system in the teeth. When you hear people talking about the deep state or something along those lines, that's a MAGA populist kind of line. Conservatives, I'm a Republican, but conservatives like me are like, what are you doing? That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to conserve the systems, the best parts of the systems. Right. So for that reason, I don't think you'll see it culturally. And then legally, you could impeach if you had an impeachment in the House, but it's controlled slightly by Republicans, so that's not going to happen. And even if it was to go through the House and get an impeachment verdict, it would go to the Senate, and you'd need two-thirds of the Senate to, so there's no chance of that anytime soon.
Okay, so as a conservative, as a proper Republican, let's put it that way, you're asking the question, what are you doing? So what are they doing, do you think? Just punching the system in the teeth and that's it? I mean, that's the goal?
Yeah, so there's a real impulse toward undoing whatever the Democrats have done within the United States. And some of it, like overspending, I can understand some overspending, but the things that we're doing in order to undo it are things like trying to lop off USAID. I would like to remove some of the programs in USAID, but wholesale lopping off means wholesale destroying our soft power. If you destroy your soft power, you only have hard power left if you need to be able to influence others within the world. So that's a fool's errand in my estimation, but that's not the way that these people see it. There's a real combative streak within the populist MAGA side, just like there is on the progressive side within the Democrats, the very far left. You see those. So old school liberals and old school conservatives who want to argue with each other and say, you're wrong for this reason and you're wrong for that reason, but still be able to sit down and have coffee together, we're kind of rare in our society.
Sad but true.
It's very frustrating. Now, when it spills over to Ukraine, it's even more frustrating for old school conservatives like me who are looking at this going, wait a minute, what would Reagan have done? And this was like almost the exact opposite approach of what Reagan would have done.
Absolutely
right? So we're restricting Ukraine right now, both militarily with, no more aid and with intelligence. And we see what just happened with the massive attack, massive bombs, drones and rockets, missiles attack. There's a reason that happened, but we're not restraining Russia on the other side, which is curious. The analogy that I gave some time ago when we first started arming Ukraine was like there's a victim down in an alleyway below our apartment, and we see three guys surrounding him, and he's about to get seriously injured. And we see, I have a baseball bat. I throw a baseball bat down to him, and now he has a chance to defend himself. Okay, that's early on in the war, but it's now turned where we've gone, okay, you know what? You guys just need to stop it down there. Hey, you guys need to stop it down there. So I go downstairs and I say, give me my baseball bat back. You guys, until you guys stop it, I'm going to take this baseball bat back.
Pay me the rent.
What are we doing?
Pay me the rent.
This
baseball bat costs me $350 billion. Why not?
It's really a backwards approach. If anything else, give him more weapons so he can put it to end rather than just tell him you better stop it. And we're not telling Putin on the other side. And if we are telling Putin on the other side, what are we threatening him with? More sanctions? I mean, is that the thing that that's the only thing that I've heard that we've actually threatened Russia with, and that was only Lindsey Graham and just today.
Don't get me wrong, Russians are happy with what is going on in the United States at the moment.
Oh, they're excited.
Sanctions are excited, absolutely delighted to see sanctions almost lifted. They're also, they're floating in the air. But in terms of getting back to things here in Ukraine, Trump is a cloud with the silver lining in it, indeed, as Europe has awakened. And 860 billion euro is being spent for the rearm initiative.
Well, and it took 3 years to get here.
See, that's what was meant exactly. And this is right? iron hard Trump's way to put things. And this is actually right. Where you've been, you guys have been here for 3 years. What happened? So he only took the ground that the Democrats just left. Yielding grounds was the Democratic thing. Yielding grounds in America, economically, politically, militarily, here in Ukraine, massively yielding ground, and then saying Trump is bad. Yeah, Trump may be bad, but you let it happen. But the next question, last question for tonight. What do we do next about it? Just survive this 3 years? What is the way of smart messaging Trump, if there is any?
Okay, so I'm not sure. He can zig and he can zag, and so far he's only zigged. Exactly. If he really is just supporting Russia, he'll just continue to just zig. If he's really just trying to support himself, he'll zig, he'll zag, he'll zig, he'll zag in order to make himself look good in this process. So that's the thing to look forward to, and to see where Trump actually is. In the meantime, he'll take credit for Ukraine, for Europe stepping up and supporting Ukraine. See, I caused them to do that. But come on, Europe, you should have been doing this for the last 3 years in earnest, not just talking about it. So that's what we'll see. How it'll all play out, I don't know. I don't think it ends anytime soon just because Trump says he's going to make a deal. No. I don't see the... Go ahead.
No, I'm not seeing it. From my perspective here in Kiev, with all these air raids alerts blaring in the air every day and now and then. So the thing I wanted to hope for cautiously is that we as a Europe are getting more united in a way to see goddamn obvious things like wolf standing at the doorstep. And the credit for this, unfortunately, goes to Donald Trump.
And you are, and it's right. And it's unfortunate that it took this in order to finally cause it. But that's the reality of where we are. The upside is I have great hope for Ukraine because you have the financial resources to make it through 2025. The Europeans have already dealt with that. The military capability in Ukraine has been ramping up. And I'm not sure that if the Europeans were to go to Trump and say, hey, we'd like to buy these systems for you, and we might or might not supply Ukraine with it, will you sell it to us? I'm pretty sure he's going to make a deal, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Why not? Sure.
Yeah, so I have great hope in spite of a very bad look, it's been bad policy after bad policy. I need ammunition, not a ride. The U.S. assumed that you were just going to be overridden or overrun right away. And then turns out you fought. And then we started providing aid, but then we slow-walked the aid. And even before we slow-walked the aid, we had that 6-month pause in the aid because we couldn't get our act together and the Europeans could have been providing this all. It's just, if it's not one thing, it's another. And the Europeans are getting there, but the Ukrainians are paying for it all along. I mean, as we make every mistake, you're paying for the cost of our mistakes, and it's very sad to see.
But someone who likes to think of himself as a Ukrainian media, I would like to, if I can't smart message Donald Trump, maybe I can address American nations, and maybe that's what we should be doing here, because American people, Republicans or Democrats, that's the might that put Donald Trump in place, and it could take him away. I mean, that's should we be? Do you think that we should be messaging American nation? How to do that?
Okay, so the message should be, like, if I was your communications consultant, and I'm not, but if I was, I'd say every time anything is talked about, anything about Ukraine, it must be prefaced with, Russia is the aggressor, and Russia is doing this, and Russia is killing our people, and from every diplomatic source in Europe, everywhere around the world, it should be saying that, because what we've done is we put parity between, like, well, we have to stop the killing. You know, the Russians, they're losing people. The Ukrainians, they're losing people. Well, no. Who's the victim and who's the victimizer here? We have to get that straight before anything else is useful here. And until we get that moral clarity, it's just not going to go where it needs to go.
Professor, thank you so very much for the consultation and for your time, for your experience, amazing things just learned. I hope we can do it sometime very soon, and we'll just see how things are wrapping up and down, because I mean, every night, every morning, I have my hopes every night, and I have my fears every morning. Just open up the feed, just what Trump just said and done. But it turns out that Europe is finally awake, and that's the fact. And see where it leads us, see where we're going with this.
I think Europe's rhetoric is finally going to be matched by action, and that's very comforting to see.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, sir. We talk soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Goodbye.